You're listening to the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Brueski,
featuring former federal prosecutor and president of West Coast Trial Lawyers, Neama Rahmani.
Let's talk about Rex Heuermann's situation. Let's talk specifically about his wife, because she's making more headlines with statements that she is giving. She's getting more attention than he has the last couple of weeks, it seems. This time asking for 300 guns back, arguing that they're marital property worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Is this someone who's just completely tone deaf to what's going on around her, or is this really bad representation that's saying, yeah, you need some money, let's try and get those guns?
I couldn't believe it, Tony, when I first read it. I'm like, this has to be a joke, right? Yeah. I mean, here's someone that, talk about tone deaf. I mean, her husband is one of the most hated men in the country, responsible, at least allegedly, for countless deaths of sex workers and counting. Mm-hmm. And, the question was, what were you doing during the time? I mean, allegedly she was out of state, but, her hairs are at the scene. Yeah. So she's kind of wrapped up in all this, number one. And now, her husband has basically like an armory of weapons. And, there's no question that's allegedly evidence in the case. So you're asking for these weapons back. Like, what do you want of them? And, for her to go out publicly, she's either getting terrible legal advice or, needs someone who's a publicist or someone just to advise her, because I think she's going to soon join her husband. She's not going to be able to step foot anywhere without folks absolutely despising her. I can't believe she would say something like that.
Well, it's so bizarre. I've never seen one behave like this, a spouse of someone who's been accused of such heinous crimes like Rex has. There's no guidebook to it, but there is just human decency, it seems. And we haven't really seen a whole lot of empathy for any of the victims that her husband is accused of murdering. It's been strictly, I want money from GoFundMe. My house is torn apart. Oh, I have the money now, but I'm still going to complain that I can't do anything with my house. I'm going to sit on my porch all the time, complain about the media being here, but I'm going to sit there and egg them on. It's just like, what is going on here? Maybe this is her regular personality, and we're now just actually getting to see it because we've never known this person before. But it seems like a really toxic, bizarre way of handling things. And I'm wondering, is she going to end up incriminating herself in some way by what she's saying out loud and the bizarre behavior that we're witnessing?
Yeah, I mean, it's really bizarre. Like you said, I mean, Tony, you nailed it. She's, yelling at the press, right, outside of her house, just like they've done something wrong, right? She's this home, which really should be condemned, neighborhood wants it torn down. She wants to keep it because it's somehow, the family home. Now she's filing, spending money filing with an attorney, filing to get these guns back. It's just
threatening to sue the police. I get everyone deals with trauma differently, but I don't know. This really kind of takes the cake of, I don't have a whole lot of pity for you anymore. Just because I'm really starting to question, what did you know and when did you know it, if anything? I really think that should be... And
your husband has Uzis. He's got like all sorts of like weapons, which are just completely unlawful under New York law. I mean, these aren't like just, hunting weapons. I mean, there's so many. He's got these ancient guns from other countries. I mean, it's just Tommy guns. I mean, it's really insane,
If she didn't know that her husband was involved in killing sex workers, I have a very hard time believing that she didn't have knowledge that he was at least seeing them and engaged in other shady activity. That's just my opinion. I have a very hard time believing that at the very least that was not a part of her knowledge of who she was living with.
Of course. I mean, this guy's got like another house in another state. Yeah. At least there's another family. I'm like, well, what is he doing? I mean, really bizarre behavior by a bizarre woman.
It does start to put in the questions of complicity to a certain extent as well, I think. Almost like what we were talking about with the case of the mommy blogger and dad who is claiming he had no idea. Just claiming you have no idea or you were out of town, that to me does not seem like a very strong defense. Although nobody's prosecuting Asa or anything like that right now, but just on the surface, I'm out of town. Well, every single time he was killing someone, you were out of town. Every single time he was seeing a prostitute, you were out of town. I think we know in some cases that she wasn't out of town, not necessarily in the murder, but when her husband, there's allegations that she was well aware that they were coming to the basement.
There's a lot of chatter on social media, Tony. You're right that there was someone else helping Rex. Was it Asa? Was it someone else? I mean, so she's got to really kind of tread lightly.
Yeah.
I'm not accusing her of anything, but she's at least in a close proximity, and I think if she was getting good advice, she'd really sort of keep her mouth shut and stop trying to. First of all, I mean, the argument has no merit when it's been seized as evidence. Number one, those are all, either used potentially evidence that was used in murders or weapons that were possessed unlawfully. So she doesn't have a legal right to them, but to kind of kick up dust here, not the smart thing to do.
You're consuming the Hidden Killers podcast.
Want more? Start binging on all of our true crime podcasts right now through Apple Podcasts and get an ad-free experience when you sign up to be a True Crime Today Premium Plus member exclusively on Apple Podcasts.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast dropping soon.
Press subscribe now.